Welcome back to Rogue Squadron. We are back with more not space missions this time. Oh wait, we are space.
Ah,
I thought we were somewhere else.
Damn it! The only thing non-selectable is the ship you always want to play as. The Millennium Falcon. How many missions can you use the Millennium Falcon in?
You can use the Millennium Falcon in the last mission.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, how many missions is it available in overall, like, even as an unlockable?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Well, is it more or less than you'd actually want to use it in?
That's the stiffest looking walk cycle I've ever seen.
Well, it's the only time you ever use it, so...
I like that Millennium Falcon model. It's got a lot of detail, and that's important for the Millennium Falcon, actually, because the thing about it is that it doesn't just have a unique shape. It's also a really piecemeal ship. Like, the first time...
Yeah, it's all slapped together.
Yeah, the first time the characters see the ship, their reaction is, that flies? Really?
What a piece of junk!
Yeah, the damn thing looks like a patchwork, and that's half of its charm right there.
And it's also apparently the fastest ship. So fast that it can break the laws of physics. And
well, that's Han Solo's bullshit sales pitch.
The B-Wing sucks.
Yeah, the B-Wing does suck. You never see that in anything ever. Actually, no, it was the B-Wing that crashed into the...
It was the Asian guy.
Yeah, it was the B-Wing that crashed.
Wait, you mean the guy with the weird face? No, wait, I'm thinking of the guy
that guy was with Lando.
Yeah, man,
I'm saying this now, but we probably already got, by the time this goes up, we probably already got 600 comments correcting that mistake. Or if we're making a mistake now, we've probably got 200 comments correcting my mistake right now by the time I'm saying this.
Well, how dare we not memorize every single minor character and ship detail in Star Wars, Lewis? Shame on you!
Now, where's the point where we control Captain Picard?
Oh God! It's like.
What about the time Star Trek crossed over with the X-Men?
Yeah, what was that about?
I never. You know something though, I never understood the whole Star Trek Star Wars rivalry thing because
they're nothing alike.
They're both in space.
They're nothing alike, and the Star Wars is at the was before the prequels came out, just 3 movies and a bunch of books. So even if you're like really big on Star Trek, it's not like they're competing very much for your time.
Basically it's just because they're the 2 most prominent sci-fi fixtures in modern American culture. Is basically what it is. It's just like if you think of a sci-fi stuff, you either think of Star Wars or Star Trek, and the fact that they have similar names doesn't really help that an awful lot.
There can be only one.
Exactly.
Yeah. So basically that's it. I don't even... to be honest, I'm not sure if the whole war is really a real thing. I wonder if it's just something that people made up and then...
It's something people make up. As far as I know, whenever I go to like Dragon Con and stuff, it's very not there.
Yes.
Well, it's not.
There's more of a split within fandoms than there is between the fandoms.
Yeah, like Next Generation or Original Series or something like that. Then
do the prequels suck that bad, or do they just kind of suck?
It's just there's this. I don't know how much of it is stereotypical and how much of it is actually true, but there always seems to be some kind of fan anger from one side of the fan base when stuff gets confused between the two. Like if someone mistakes a Star Wars thing for a Star Trek thing, or vice versa.
Well, it's because they're not really the same at all. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like you can expect like your mom to look at that to look at this like a random scene, especially if you're watching like the new Star Trek movies, like the Abrams one.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not a particular fan,
I guess it kind of depends.
If I'm not a particular fan of either of the franchises, you can't blame me for the pop culture ignorance on that sort of thing. They're both in space, and for the general audience, that's pretty much all they need to compare it to, say, Star Trek or Star Wars.
Yeah, but this is a thing, just a general thing about fandoms that bugs me, is that they always get irritable with people when they get stuff wrong, rather than, just sort of casually explaining things. So
because if they do that, because then they'll be the nerd, but really angrily saying, "Oh no, he was actually in episode 6." But that makes you even more nerdy.
Here's my thing though. If people would just drop the irritability and the anger and talk about things in conversation, they might actually draw people into their fan base more often. Get people interested in what you're interested in instead of being a jerk about it and making it look like some sort of self-destructive nerd culture.
I don't understand.
I mean,
I don't get this whole not being angry at people thing. You're gonna have to
to be fair, a lot of that stems from Until somewhat recently, things like Star Wars, Star Trek, and all the nerdy stuff, you would get picked on in school and society for liking that.
Yeah,
I know.
it's really. I think it was really only the rise of the internet where you realized, okay, other people like this, so it's not wrong for me to enjoy it. I think it's also it works similarly in that if you've got if you go on your Facebook feed, you're not a sci-fi fan, but everybody's posting statuses about going to see the new Star Wars movie. It's not like you can make fun of everybody, because at some point you're the minority, and then they can start making fun of you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we're slowly moving our way towards a more tolerant age of nerddomness.
My point though is it's kind of a self-feeding cycle where that defensive attitude on the quote-unquote nerds part sort of fuels the stereotypes and becomes a reason for them to be made fun of, and it also repels people from trying out new things where they would actually get into it.
Yeah, that is very true.
If not handled properly, it can just be a vicious cycle. If it's not the nerds that are being on the short end of the stick, eventually it'll become the very macho-like men that'll be made fun of by the nerds.
Dude, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. It's already happening with like dude bros and stuff like that.
Well, to be fair, they're not helping with Call of Duty, but
but that's not Call of Duty's fault, though.
But speaking of that, just to close this tangent out, when the quote-unquote nerds start automatically hating on things that are embraced by the mainstream, not even just Call of Duty and that kind of thing, but also things like Final Fantasy VII. That also becomes.
I think that's not necessary. That's why I've been, especially lately, trying to word my stuff better. Because especially recently, I'm trying to, I try to say things like SA2 is my favorite Sonic game, as opposed to it being the best Sonic game. Because those are indeed two completely different things.
But here's the thing, though. When you automatically reject that stuff, it becomes another one of those obnoxious defensive things that sets the nerd culture apart from everyone else and makes it an outcast sort of thing.
No, you know what I think it's most similar to? People with their sports teams. Because if you insult, I've noticed that if you insult a game on the internet, people take it as if you're insulting them for liking it. If I go into a New York bar and shout "Yankees suck," I'm gonna get my ass kicked. And it's the same sort of thing. Whenever
being from Boston, that automatically happens to you. But...
if anybody did that, that would happen to them. But it's a similar sort of thing that happens.
Okay, so context for this mission: it's vengeance on Kothless or whatever. What are we taking revenge on, and what is it for?
We shot down that Star Destroyer and it landed on the planet. We're trying to get something, I forget what, from inside, so we have to go down and break it open.
Okay, so we dropped the Star Destroyer, which is about the size of a state of Texas. If you have to keep in mind. So how many people died when that thing crash landed?
It probably caused the extinction of this planet's dinosaurs.
Yeah, because keep in mind in the canon, or at least what's still canon now, because Episode 7 is not over. Oh, hi, Naboo Starfighter. In Episode 6, when you blow up the Death Star, all the Ewoks die. So yeah.
Yeah,
we're the good
eventually
guys.
they do. Eventually they do. Although, I think that's an extended universe niggle, so no idea if that's canon now.
Oh, I think you can actually see R2 in the cockpit.
Yeah, you can.
So Annie's flying this one! Oh boy! Try spinning! That's a neat trick!
Can you nosedive?
Yeah.
Man, I can't believe Anakin Skywalker survived that battle.
It's dumb.
The will of the Force.
He's the chosen one.
No, I think if there's one thing you can give Episode 1 credit for, they pretty much established that it was dumb luck all the way.
Yeah.
that he survived. Which I think does transfer. That must be a hereditary thing, because Luke has some of that as well in the original trilogy.
Well, at least to Luke's credit, he's a 20-something and has plenty of practice.
Yeah.
Luke got his ass saved by Han Solo's timely return, and that's pretty much the only reason he survived.
Well, yeah, I think the trick is that Luke has training and a decent plan. It's just things were going bad, and it was lucky that he happened to come out. In the case of Anakin in Episode 1, it's just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna go into a starfighter. Oh man, it must have been like the most lucky day that a million coincidences happen at once, so I didn't get blow up and die and leave the force in darkness for the rest of my. Oh wait.
He's that kid who climbed into the car when his parents left the key in and decided to turn it on and take it for a joyride. Except somehow he didn't crash into the goddamn pizzeria.
And not to mention that he found
midichlorians, son.
Not to mention that he found a serial murderer and managed to run him over and bring him into the cops. Because if we're gonna take
that
that
would
metaphor,
scar a kid for life.
well, you know, he did blow up an entire space station, which probably had.
We're the good guys.
Yeah.
This sounds like a
They're
bad
all
Kindle
droids.
Fire. This sounds like a bad Kindle comedy novel in the making. I should turn it into one.
Louis, you're a genius.
Okay.
I shot down all the ties.
Okay,
Oh.
so gameplay-wise, does the Naboo Starfighter have any particular
Oh, they have.
apart?
Oh, they.
It's generally basically an X-wing but faster.
Oh, okay. Well, then there's no reason to ever use the X-wing besides nostalgia after unlocking this thing, is there?
No.
Well, I do. If there is an attention to detail, I like how all the bigger ships have visible shadows on the ground. That is a nice attention to detail that you probably wouldn't notice in a game like this. In 2001.
Well, is it like a drop shadow directly below?
Yeah, basically. Oh, try spinning! That's a neat
That's
trick!
a neat trick. I figured I had to do that at least once.
And now I want my lunch back, you son of a bitch.
Okay. On my meme meter from 1 to 10, it's a nice one, but it's never going to replace do a barrel roll. 5 out of 10 would not meme again.
No, but on a serious note, though, I mean, I know we had Star Fox Assault, which I think did really good in terms of the R-wing missions.
The space stuff, yeah.
But seeing stuff like this, I mean, don't you just want another Star Fox game like the graphics?
Yeah, I know. I want something
and we
like
are
this.
getting one.
Star
granted,
Fox
on the Wii U.
Command? You know,
No.
I like Star Fox Command was good.
No, I want a shooter game like this.
No, that they had shooter games in all the missions. You go around and you blow up things and you chase. Okay, the missile mini game was annoying, but you know the R-Wing game, that seems to be a trend with Star Fox after 64. It's like, okay, the R-Wing gameplay is great. Can we have more of that instead of strategy games and on-foot missions?
That sort of sounds like the Knight's Journey of Dreams problem, where everyone loves the regular Knights levels, but when you get to the on-foot stuff, everyone just doesn't want it anymore.
Yeah,
And it just
because
sort of
it-
drags
Because it's not well done.
No, because it's the phobia that if you only have a game with this particular thing, it'll be too short, and people will be enraged that they have to pay $50 for the entire thing. It's the stigma where a game can't be too short, otherwise people will bitch about it. But then you realize that I don't think that'd be a problem as long as the game is really replayable. Because I mean, let's go back to Sonic Unleashed for a second.
I play Star Fox 64 all the time.
But that's the thing, though. It's like it's
short,
a
but-
stupid phobia that I think needs to be removed from it. Because let's look back to Sonic Unleashed. They added the Werehog because they thought with the game was only the daytime stages to be too short and it wouldn't sell well. Where was that stigma when Sonic Colors came out?
I think that was because people were, they said we just want the daytime sections, and even then, one of Sonic Colors' most common complaints, the game was well received, but a common complaint from the critical press was that it was pretty short, and it is. The game's only like about 5 hours or so. So, I think I think that's why I'm glad that handhelds are getting more powerful, because it's generally more acceptable for a handheld game to be 6-8 hours as opposed to a console game. So that's why I have a feeling that games like these are going to migrate to 3DS eventually.
I have a problem with that time window though. When you pay $20 for a movie, how much time content are you generally paying for?
Like 2 hours. It's also more of an.
Oh, it says Peter Jackson, then you're getting like 12.
It's 2 hours. It's 2 to 3 hours for $20 to $30, depending on DVD versus Blu-ray. But when you pay a video game, you're paying 3 times as much, and yet people seem to feel entitled to 6 to 10 times as much time content.
I think it depends on the game, because you
it's a case-by-case
you can pay.
study.
Let's. I'm gonna look at my 3DS collection for a second here. Take
I'll
Super
expect-
Monkey
it's
Ball
almost-
3D and Bravely Default. You could buy both for about the same price at launch, $40. Whereas Bravely Default is an 80-hour game. Super Monkey Ball is a 4-hour game. So
Yeah.
games are just a much depending on the type of game you want, RPG, platformer, puzzle game. You can have anywhere between 1 to hundreds of hours
Yeah,
with
I
one
know.
title.
My point though is that people are putting way too much emphasis on wanting games that lean more toward those hundreds of hours than toward, like, I guess what we could call video games equivalent of feature length, which is about 6 to 8 hours. And I think that trend, that issue is part of why the game industry is having trouble accommodating.
No, that makes sense, especially, I think it's a couple of reasons. One, I think that they want the longer game time because that sounds better, it's just like hundreds of hours of gameplay, that's a good back of the box. And another thing, rentals. They want to keep, if the game's only 8 hours, people will rent it over a weekend and they won't buy it, and none of that money goes to the publisher. So...
yeah, but they do the same thing with movies too, and that hasn't killed the movie industry yet.
Yeah. You're right.
Good point.
So, it's a complex problem, and I don't think we're going to solve it.
It's a case-by-case basis. I understand that. It's just that I hate it when they pad the game out with something that it doesn't need to be, and it ends up deteriorating the entire game's quality.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, this game, to get us back a little bit on topic to the game we're playing, is actually quite short.
Yeah.
But you play the game, it's replayability because you want to get better missions, you want to unlock better ships, you want to score better, etc.
Yeah, that was the norm at the beginning of that generation, really.
Yeah, because Pikmin, for example, you had the challenge mode, which was basically just reskin versions of the main levels, and then you just try to sort of get as many Pikmin in a day, and that was a really engaging part. Also, the game is designed for speedruns, so you can replay the game as much as you want there. And then when you compare it to Pikmin 2, where they add in like hours and hours and hours of boring as shit dungeon sections, that decreases the quality of the game for me. Because I think there is indeed such a thing as too much of a good thing. It happens a lot, and it ends up making what would be an amazing game just sort of be because you're spending an extra 10 hours doing something you don't want to do.
Yeah, it's longer, but it feels like wasted time, and that can kill an entire game experience.
That's why a lot of people have problems with Bravely Default, because at the end of the game you do a thing.
There's this entire rehash section, right?
Yeah,
where
chapter...
you basically retread everything.
Yeah, and to the game's credit, they do try to add stuff to make it a little bit more interesting, like the
so
side
it's like
quests
Devil
are
May
really...
Cry 4 in RPG form.
Yeah, the side quests are funny, but you could have cut like 2 whole loops from that, and nobody would have missed anything. Hell, you could have. Most people argue that you could have cut all but 1. So, it's just adding more content does not necessarily add to a game.
Yeah, and I question why it was necessary in the first place, because not only is it an RPG which is long enough to justify its price by default, it's also a handheld RPG, so it doesn't need to be as long as console RPGs.
Yeah. You know what's all I need when it comes to certain games? An unlockable character. Like, one of the reasons why I would go back and replay Sonic 3 and Knuckles a lot of times is because I get a kick out of exploring the stages of Sonic, I get a kick out of exploring the stages of Tails, and get a kick out of exploring Knuckles, because they all have different abilities while keeping the core gameplay the same. That's all I pretty much need for a video game. Give me an unlockable character that's way different from the main protagonist, but I understand that I'm still playing the same game, but it leads to a different experience.
Oh, that was why I was super excited when the Shantae Half Genie Hero hit its $900,000 stretch goal like a year after the Kickstarter ended, because that added 3 extra playable characters, and that's at the very least 3 more playthroughs that I'm going to be doing if characters feel distinct, So yeah, more stuff like that, less obvious padding, I think is the way that we should word it.